I think we're off and running. Let's take one quick look here. Looks like we're live. I'm going to drop a tweet. Now streaming live on Twitch. Live coding and answering your questions. Okay. Hey, how's it going? Angelo is back. Hey, it's a fine Saturday morning, no work, just taking it easy. I hope you can't. Can you hear my neighbor with the with the leaf blower behind me out there? I'm hoping that's not too distracting in the background. But it's a Saturday morning. I've got my coffee. I'm relaxed, ready to take it easy, build something kind of cool. Let's see. We are. It's been a couple days. My apologies for how things went on Thursday. Dropped frames. We need to run a couple more tests before I can bring somebody on and run Skype with them. I know other folks like to use Discord when they do discussions on a Twitch stream. So maybe that's going to be the way that I end up going. We'll see. I'm going to start some background music. I'm going to be playing, once again, music to code by. This track is called Yellow. Once again, music to code by is by my friend Carl Franklin. This is his website. You can download the first three clips for free when you install the new app Music to Flow by, and that's available for iOS and Android devices. Hats. I want to talk about hats today. Today's hat is an Inetta hat. Inetta used to be the International .NET User Group Association. And the gist of it was this was a group of affiliated user groups that could share materials and get access to speakers. So professional speakers in the .NET, the Microsoft .NET space, could receive a little bit of financial support to travel around and speak at different user groups. For a while, I spoke through the Inetta Speaker Bureau and was reimbursed several times for travel to various locations. Inetta is a very good thing, and I hope we see similar user group support come back to our space in the future. All right, enough about hats and Inetta. Today, I want to show and talk about a project that I had started called Epic Build Music. Here's what I'm thinking. Wouldn't it be really cool if while we were building our project in Visual Studio, instead of just having, to sit there and wait and see the little thing go by down in the output window, reporting all the status, wouldn't it be nice if Visual Studio played us some music to say, hey, listen to this, enjoy this fine music while your build is occurring? I happen to have a choice song that I like to think about for this. I'm going to pause this music and let me go dig up that clip real quick. I'm going to move my Explorer down here while I go find it. It was cdev Epic Build Music. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. This is the song that I wanted to play. Oh yes, Epic Sax Guy, all the time. It doesn't get any more cheesy than that. Oh, so Angelo, project you work on now takes 3 hours to build. Oh yes, you would need a much longer track than the little 7 seconds of Epic Sax Guy going. That's some good feedback though, that if we wanted to do this and have and you have a longer build process in Visual Studio, yeah, you're gonna need something longer than a 7-second loop. So, but that leads to some other questions. Why do you have a build um, that takes 3 hours in Visual Studio to build? Oh my gosh. Jay Rampage says there's an 8-hour loop for the Epic Sax guy. There is, and it is amazing. It's right up there for me with the Nyan Cat, right? 8 hours of Nyan Cat. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine doing 8 hours of Nyan Cat. Stop. So I'm gonna go back to my yellow. There's yellow in the background again. So, 8 hours of Nyan Cat. That's something my daughters would listen to and absolutely love, and I can't stand it. I thought Hamster Dance would be another fun song to drop in there. The challenge that I run into is with an open source project, I can't distribute those MP3s. Those are owned by somebody else. I can point you to where to go and get them and make them, but I can't package up and put that inside the V6. Excuse me. And install that. That's a little bit of a problem. So maybe a song like this you could play, right? This is an MP3 that's playing off of my local hard drive. That's not too bad. I need my coffee this morning. Oh my gosh. So I think there's a couple different options there, and maybe it'd be nice to have some bells and whistles. Gosh, my friend Suze was even suggesting it'd be great if there was confetti and fireworks that went off when a build completed successfully. I think that's a great idea too. Let's look at that as V2. But first, I want to be able to trap and handle the beginning of a build and the end of a build. And this used to be real easy to do when we had macros in Visual Studio. But we're doing it now with extensions. What we have here, Angelo says, a true fireworks machine for all the Agile teams. Yeah, that'd be really cool, right? When you have that 3-hour build finish, you better have fireworks go off. Absolutely. Well, on the flip side, though, you might want to have a foghorn go or sad tuba play if it fails. So there's some other interesting ideas. Wouldn't it be great if we had build failure music too? I'll tell you what, I'm going to create that as an issue. I'm going to put down some of these ideas. I like where you guys are going in the chat room with some of these. I'm just going to create some issues here. Issue labels and pull requests for new contributors. That's nice. Go away. I like the feedback I'm getting in the chat room here. So let's just create some issues so I can keep track of these when we come back to this project in the future. Need to be able to handle long music, right? Do we start at a specific spot? Let's create another issue. Need to be able to handle long builds. What happens when a build is 3 hours or longer? And then let's create a feature idea. Fireworks on successful build. And I'm going to actually put the feature idea there. Enhancement, that's what they call it. You know what? I don't like enhancement. I'm going to call it add labels for new contributors, help wanted, or good first issue. Huh, okay. Neat. I'm going to create a feature label. Oh, I get to specify a color. Give me a cool color. No. 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 I want like a navy, man. There we go. Give me the purple. Alright. Let's go back here to issues. Handle long biscuits. Any indication of failed builds? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like sad tuba, right? Feature. Failed build. Sound effect. Right? Now let's just call it failed build notification, right? Do we play a sound effect? Do we do a screen overlay? And I'm going to put feature on this. Now, to be clear, I'm focusing on full Visual Studio 2017 for this extension. I think there's an opportunity to do something for Visual Studio Code. However, in talking to some of my friends who work on Visual Studio Code, they tell me that extensions in Visual Studio Code, outside of putting something in a panel at the bottom, is a little bit trickier to do. So doing a user interface overlay is a little bit tricky. Okay, so I've created 4 issues. Failed build notifications. You know what, let's change this from fireworks on successful build to just successful build notification. And I want to put a description in here. And fireworks overlay. Trumpets, something cool. Could we send a webhook? What do you think, Angelo? Send a webhook to some other service to trigger a real-world interaction. That'd be cool. All right. Let me know what you guys think. You can come here and create issues yourself. This is github.com, C#Fritz, fritz.epicbuildmusic. I don't think it's a private repository. I think this is a public repository. Yeah. So you're welcome to come and create issues of different things that maybe we build into this over the next little bit. I'm going to need some help getting some real fireworks or something in the real world to trigger as a result of the build firing successfully. All right, let's take a look at the actual code here because it needs some help. I started it and it doesn't work quite properly yet. I've actually run into an issue where it doesn't know when a build has failed. So that epic sax guy music, I got to be careful saying that, keeps running and running and running, and there's no way to stop it. So I've got to revisit this and see what's going on. So let me go back over here to Visual Studio. Here I am, and this is Visual Studio 2017 Enterprise Edition. And let me go open my project. All right. I work inside the dev folder off the root of my project, off the root of my hard drive. So I'm going to open Fritz Epic Build Music, the solution. Now, for anybody who hasn't built Visual Studio extensions before, you're going to find that there's a lot of very low-level, old COM interfaces. Oh yeah, COM. That you need to hook up to in order to listen to and respond to various things that are going on inside the project. Inside the interface. Because Visual Studio, for the most part, has been carried forward and has just kind of evolved as this huge IDE that has a ton of COM interfaces behind it and extensions and capabilities that were built in COM. I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds very very old, right? That's, gosh, what are you doing with such a old legacy interface when we should be building things with WPF and UWP? We've got a ton of source code behind this that we're maintaining and moving forward. When Visual Studio 2010 hit and they rewrote the entire editor as a WPF component, that was a huge move. And if you used Visual Studio 2010, you know what kind of impact it had on that first revision that we saw. And things got significantly better in 2012 and 2013, those versions of Visual Studio. So this is 2017. Let's take a look at this project. I haven't looked at this in a while, so let's see what's in here. We need to have a strong name key so that we can identify ourselves when we install this extension inside of Visual Studio, right? We don't want executing code running inside of folks' Visual Studio that we don't know where it came from. So I generate, and I have a strong name key in here. I've got a license, of course, and I think I just made this an MIT. Yeah, it's an MIT license with my name slapped in the middle of it. But that's important that the license be in there. I wrote a class called Music Player. There's a package here. This is one of those. This is one of the delivery units for how we put the V6, right? VSIX is the extension for a Visual Studio extension, right? When we see that file sitting on disk, it's VSIX. The team, we call them V6s, which, when you think about it, okay, that kind of makes sense. And when you're dealing with so many of these every day and you're talking about them all the time, to call them Visual Studio extension, that's really long and a pain in the neck to repeat. So calling them V6s, all right, that's a little bit better. And it's right up there with NupKeg, right? I harp on this one. I was program manager for the NuGet team for a little bit. When you deal with NuGet packages a lot, and you see on disk they are NUPKGs, that's a NupKeg. Keg, because what developer doesn't like beer? So, Jay Rampage, can you talk about the references I had to add? Absolutely, we'll talk about adding references to this. And K-Shai, is it K-Shai-Ju or K-Shai-Ju? Or am I mispronouncing it really badly? Thanks for joining us. And he says, I'm assuming a he, they. Thanks for doing this, Jeff. No problem. Thank you for joining me here today. Just want to get some help, pair programming, show you kind of what I think through as I develop, and maybe you learn something. Maybe I learned something from you. Here we go. It is K-Shai-Ju. Okay, cool. All right. And I am going to try and do interviews again in the future. Like I said, I need to test how I'm going to do Skype or Discord or something, and that space above me, above the event list, I will have somebody pop in there, and we will pair program work on something. Just need to figure out what my issue is here with bandwidth or video rendering. We will get that fixed, and it will be coming. So in this project, I wrote a class called Music Player because I just wanted to encapsulate how just the features to play music, right? Because music, that should be simple. This should be, something that I start and stop, and I want to be able to unit test this. So move that logic out somewhere else. I haven't written any tests yet, only because I'm not sure how I'm going to hook up and build some tests. So maybe I can get some insight from you folks in the chat room. How do you think I can hook up tests to this? Now this class, there it is. So I have Music Player, and it's an iDisposable. Now I did a DLL import for the Windows Media Player. Okay, so what this is doing, and what I'm doing behind the scenes, is I'm using Windows Media Player indirectly, because every Windows machine, and we know Visual Studio 2017 is going to be installed on Windows. Every Windows machine has Windows Media Player on it, right? I think so. Since it has Windows Media Player on it, I can rely on this DLL, WinMM DLL. Actually, it's more up there. There we go. I can rely on that being there. So there is an external method called MCI sendString, okay? Now, if you haven't done any low-level programming where you're doing this unsafe interaction from your application to another, this is a little bit tricky, but you do this DLL import to make that reference, and then I can send strings along with a callback handle into that other program, and I can start to send some information to it. So I try and create a single instance of my music player, because I don't want my Epic Sax Guy music playing twice, overlapping each other. It's going to get really weird. I want to have only one of these. So I create a singleton right here. Private static read-only music player instance. So the only thing that can create this is when we reference and access the instance here, and it's created the first time that instance is accessed. I created a file name property, and it right now points to this Epic Sax Guy MP3 that I have saved to my disk. And just in case you're looking for this, I do have that explicitly called out in my git ignore to not include that in my project, just because I don't want to run into any issues with copyrights. Right, that song was played at I'm going to get this wrong because I'm an American, and it was played at the Euro Live, the European music competition. I think it was 2012 in Oslo. Was it Oslo or Stockholm? It was either Norway or Sweden. I can't remember which one it was, but fun song, techno-ish song. Love the sax playing in it. There we go. Cloudica. Cloudica? Is that how you say it? Cloudica? Thank you for following. I appreciate you joining me here on this Saturday morning. Hope you have some questions where you can help out with where we're going with building some epic interfaces here for Visual Studio. So this media player, I wanted to set up just a couple of simple methods, right? Begin playing, stop playing, close the media file, open the media file, right? These are the simple things that you would do with your Windows Media Player, right? And I know Microsoft has released Groove, and there's iTunes out there and a whole bunch of things, but I can rely on Windows Media Player being there. And I've got, of course, a dispose method down here, and I'm using the dispose pattern, right? And for those of you who haven't seen this done before, if you implement iDisposable because you've got some sort of a resource you need to unload, and you need to make sure it's unloaded, like access to these files, this Windows Media Player that's going to be playing in the background, I want to make sure that that's disposed of. So down here, let me go to my dispose methods first here. So the iDisposable implements this public method, dispose, right? So you can explicitly call music player dispose, but really what you should do is have this protected virtual method to indicate, are you actually doing the dispose? And if you are, suppress the finalize and do your other disposing actions. Now, I call GC, the garbage collector, suppress finalize, because I'm telling the garbage collector, I've already cleaned up after this. You don't need to call the finalizer. I have a finalizer on this, and that's what this tilde music player is here, right? In C# we put a tilde before it, and then the name of the class, and it looks like a constructor, but this is our finalizer. This is the code that the garbage collector will call after it's collected this object, but in the next garbage collection, it will call this to clean up. We want to make sure that we dispose anything that's still hanging out there. So I call dispose false to indicate I'm not disposing, so don't try and tell it to suppress finalizing this object. And then I'm going to call my close method. So my close method, for completeness here, I'm just specifying close that media file, right? Close that MP3. Don't maintain a reference to it because it would get messy having file references if that file isn't properly released by the Windows Media Player. Okay, so let me show you some of the other things that are going on here before I start to look a little bit further into what's going on. So there's my file name, and it's set to that default. So begin playing. I want to check to make sure that my file is open, right? So I created a property here. Let me hide some of this stuff in my region. See, regions are a good thing. I want to check to see if my file is opened, and if it isn't, well, let's go open it, and then let's start playing when I call the begin playing method. So let me show you open. I'm going to send a command. Now this command, this is actually what Windows Media Player is looking for. So open whatever that file name, MPEG video alias media file. That's the structure of what Windows Media Player is looking for. And then I call this send string to send that string command into Windows Media Player, and I'm telling it there is no window pointer to come back to here. Just execute this, and you're done. And I'm going to mark that this file is in fact open at this point. And I've got pause, play. You can see very clearly here some of the other things that are going on. You'll notice my play command, though, I have the repeat command built in here to that reference, okay? So the media file's already been opened. We're saying play it, but I want to make sure that it repeats. And that might be able to help us with what you were suggesting there, Angelo, where you have a really long build process. We should probably repeat. If we have a short song, if it's only 5 minutes and you have a 3-hour build, I think this might cover it. I'm not going to close that issue, but I'm going to make sure that this stays here. You know what? I'm just going to wrap this with a region here, just so I can hide those. All right. So I've got play, open, close. Of course, closes the media file. That's a simple command. That makes sense. Stop music issues the close command, because now I wonder if I should issue pause and then close. Not sure. Got to come back to that. But I'm writing some information out to my trace so I can see what's going on here. Now, I think this runs pretty well. And in fact, I mean, I could pull this out into another... I could reference this from another project, an integration test project, and put some buttons on there just to trigger these things to make sure that they are running properly. I think that might not be a bad idea. But I don't want to reference the V6. It'd be nice if I put that into another project. So maybe I need to have a core project that has these objects that are going to do my manipulation of my of the music player, going to help trigger some of those external things. Maybe I put that into a single middle class library, reference that from my extension, and then I can also have an integration test project so that I can go through and test those things. I think that's not a bad idea. Here's what I'm going to do. So, I don't think I have a dev branch on this repository, and I don't like working directly in master. Right? Working directly in master just feels bad. So Fritz, Epic, build music, get status. Yeah, see, I've already got some things that are modified here, and it's not tracking Epic sax. I shouldn't track my strong name key. That'd be bad. I don't want to. While it'd be nice to build with AppVeyor or VSTS, I don't want this checked in and to build and deploy a package to the Visual Studio Marketplace. Let me just make sure that I'm not lying here about my git ignore. I should be ignoring... I don't see my MP3s in here, and I don't see my strong name key. I'm going to add those real quick here. Ignore test MP3s and strong named key. There we go. So star.mp3 and then star.snk. Right? So this is the structure of the git ignore file. This is just a mask of different files to ignore. Lines inside this file that start with a hash symbol are ignored. They're comments. I'll save that, close. If I do a git status, see it, those up here when I didn't run it, it saw these other files, the Epic Sax MP3 and my key. It saw those as files on disk. Now it doesn't see them. So I'm going to add my git ignore, and I'm going to commit that, excluding MP3 and strong naming keys from repo. Cool. I'm going to push that just so I get that out of the way. Let me commit what I have here now. And sort of running properly. Starting work in dev. Cool. And I'll push that. And at some point I'm going to need to put a dialogue in here, aren't I? So that you can select the different build music. User interface to select. Let's not call it build music. To select interactions. Need to select build music. Need to select other interactions when successful build, failed build. I think that's cool. All right. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to, let's check to make sure I don't have a dev branch. Bad Jeff. Let's create a dev branch, and I'm going to start working over there. All right. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Well, maybe I should show where I am at this point and then figure out from there. So let's do that. I'm going to pause the background music for a second. And let's close this. Yeah, I'm going to close Groove for right now, just so it doesn't get confused. And for right now, I'm just going to start this. Let's see what happens. So what it's going to do, it's going to compile the project, and then it's going to start. It's like a developer instance of Visual Studio. I forget what it's called, but I have the tools inside of the Visual Studio installer. I've opted to include the tools to build extensions, and it's actually building on my other screen down here, not on the main screen that I'm sharing that you folks can see. I'm gonna, when Visual Studio is done launching down here, I'm gonna open it and move it up here so that you guys can see it over there on the screen. Come on, Visual Studio. Now, it's loading a lot of stuff in debug mode, and we've actually attached the debugger to Visual Studio. That sounds weird because we run the debugger inside Visual Studio, and we're attaching the debugger to Visual Studio so that we can debug how Visual Studio is working. And this is actually how folks build and write Visual Studio. Because as we evolve Visual Studio, what we're doing as a project team is we're moving more things into extensions so that it's easier for us to maintain and update features in Visual Studio without you having to go and install a whole new version of the entire thing, because that's a lot. That's a big download. And I don't know about you, I don't like to wait for that huge download to finish. So this is called the experimental instance of Visual Studio. And you can see I get the WPF debugger charm that appears up here at the top, so that for these WPF windows, I can actually go in and inspect and work on various things. So that's kind of cool. I can actually see the various parts and labels and controls inside of Visual Studio. That's kind of neat if you've never done that before, to be able to see exactly how this thing is put together, because like I said before, it is massive. It is a huge project. Now, for the purposes of this, I am going to let me open a new project. And I'm going to open, let's just create a simple console app so that we don't have to really think about this. Fritz, oh, come on, give me my Epic, right? Epic build music. What's the name of my folders down in there? All right. Yeah, that's fine. And we will call this test project. No, bad Jeff. Test project. Yeah, that's where we want to put it. I don't want to create a directory for the solution. Just put it down there. So I just want to have a very simple console library that starts up, and I can trigger my build, and we can listen to the music. We can test to make sure that the various effects in the future all run properly. So here comes my project. There it is. I don't need to see the output window right now. So I've got a simple static void main. Let's just console out right line hello world console out. No, it's not console out read line. It's just console read line. Ah, there we go. All right. So this project, if it actually runs, it'll just say hello world and it'll stop. It'll read line, it'll wait for a carriage return, an enter key press before it actually does anything. And I don't really care how this application functions. I just want to have something that's simple to build. So I'm just going to click start. And we'll see if it actually... Okay, so here are the hooks inside of Visual Studio that I'm looking at to begin playing music. So if this is I forget what current project is, but start playing the music. There we go, my music's playing. And if the current project equals the current project count, which is, if it's greater than or equal to it, when it's done, stop playing. And it is. Cool. So it stopped playing when I built my project. And down here, I've got a little window. Hello world. I'll press enter and it goes away. Now the problem that I was running into was, that's great. This built, there it is. Let me close my solution. So it's clearing up some information about my project. Okay, gone. So now let me go reopen that project. And if I try and build it this time, it actually didn't build. It has my hello world right here, and it didn't trigger the build. So I'm going to do a rebuild solution here, so I can force that to happen. So now here it is. If current project equals 0, there's my build music. Now it's testing current project 1. If it's greater than or equal to the project's count, it should stop. And it stopped. Okay. That works. Now what happens if I add another project to this? Right, so let's create a class library, and we will call this, class library. Thank you. Test class library. Okay, so now I've got these two projects. Let me, just for the sake of making this a little bit longer, let me add a reference from my console to the class library. So now this project depends on that project. So now if I build, okay, so current project is 0, starts playing. My project count is 0. I'm on 1. It's going to stop, but it's going to start playing now for the next project. My project count is still 0, and it stops. So think about that. In this model where I've got two projects to build, it started building at the first project and stopped. It started playing on the first project, started building, and then stopped. And then the second project, it started playing the music again and then stopped. That's not what I want to do. I want it to start playing at the beginning of the first project and then stop at the end of the last project. So how do I do that? How do I figure out when I've started for the entire solution versus ended building the entire solution? And that's where I'm hitting the first of my issues. You may see a little bit in there that I've got some other things going on that feels a little weird. Now, this, I should explain, this package, okay, it implements a whole series of interfaces, including solution events and, look at this, VS Update Solution Events 2. So there's a second interface, the second version of that interface that adds new features that weren't in previous versions of Visual Studio. So in order to support both versions, I need to include both of these things. Ugh. All right. And that means that I get all these different hooks into the various events as the solution is being managed. And there's, just to close the loop on this, there's a bunch of attributes up here to indicate and define stuff for Visual Studio when this package is installed. Okay, so scrolling down here, I have my, nothing really happens inside the constructor. And in fact, it instructs you, don't put anything in the constructor. Do all of your initialization really inside the initialize method, because that's when it's actually going to be loaded up and used. And that's what I have down here. So inside my initialization, I get a reference to the service of the solution manager so that I can access it. And then I know what the solution is. Now, once I have that, I get in from, I want to get, and now look at this. I understand why they do this, but this is a little bit messy here. It tries to get the property that is the number of projects in the solution. Does that make sense? And I want to get it out into this object count. Now at that point, I should be able to track the total number of projects in the solution, which makes sense for this type of problem that I'm trying to solve, where I want to inspect and only stop playing the music when I hit that last project successfully, right? If there's a build fail, I want to stop as soon as there's a build fail, and we'll come back to that in a little bit here, because I know I'm handling that poorly, right? I mean, I'm handling that really bad. Let me show you here. So I'm going to start the experimental instance of Visual Studio again. Come on now. It's going to take a second. I'm just gazing at my Twitter here. Looks like it's a quiet Saturday morning, and there aren't too many people hanging out on Twitter. And just a few folks in the chat room today. That's okay. We'll wrap this up and publish this. So it's over on my blog and on YouTube, in case anybody wants to check out what we were doing here. All right. So I'm going to move this Visual Studio instance back onto the screen. There it is. Go away, output window. I'm going to reload that test project that I was working on before. Here's another thing, and I was running into this when I was initially building this. When you loaded a solution, it didn't initialize that number of projects properly either. And that's weird. That feels bad, because I don't, right? If it initializes the number of projects wrong, I'm going to get my build music running all the time. Let me show you that. So when I hit start here so that the build music triggers, I need to do a rebuild. It jumped right through, saw there was no code changes. Let's do that again. Not project. Come on back. There it is. Build. Rebuild. So there we go. So now it's triggering my build music. And my project, look at this. My project count is 0. There's 2 projects in the solution, but it thinks the project count is 0. And it says my current project is number 1. And now I'm starting building on my second project, so it starts playing music again. And then it stops. So I've, right? That's weird. Let me go into this project. Let's just reference something that isn't available, right? Let's do something like stream reader s equals new stream reader, right? I know that isn't going to work, and in fact, Visual Studio is helping me here, saying it's not referenced. Fine, I don't care. I want the failure to happen. So I'll start current project 0, begin playing. And now it's done. Current project is 1. Project count is 0. It'll stop. 0. Begins playing again. So why did it kick off a second time when it clearly stopped in the middle of the first project? Say these are... So I need to figure out what exactly is going on there to make sure that I handle these things properly. So for right now, I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to open an issue here. Not handling, stopping the music for a failed build. Errors in compiling are not stopping the build music. It continues to build the other projects in the solution. Cool. Now let's change that to it continues during the build of the other projects in the solution. Ah! What happened? I've done something. Oh no. Where did Firefox go? I've angered Firefox. Here we go. Back to C# Fritz. Not, no. GitHub.com. There it is. C# Fritz Epic Build Music. Back into my issues. This. It continues during the build of the other projects in the solution. That's better. And create one more issue here. Starts and stops music between each project. Music should play, nope, nope, should play continuously until the solution is done building. There we go. All right. This is the one that I want to address first. Now, let's go back to Visual Studio. All right. What am I missing here? What am I doing wrong? So I have all kinds of triggers on before close project, load project, and I've already tried to do some things in here to figure out what are all the projects I have inside my solution. And then this might not be a bad thing, right? So after load project, after open project. So I'm assuming, right, one of these, right, did I delete some, what did I delete here? No. How do I track the projects that are in the solution so that I have an accurate number of projects? Because it feels like I'm not getting that appropriate number of projects where I set my current project to 0, but that's in the close. I don't care about that. Update project configuration. So this is what is firing when the project build starts, I think. At least that's what it looks like. And then update project configuration done. Excuse me. This is right. This is when it's done and then it stops playing. But I don't. Right. This is where I'm trying to say don't close, don't stop if we have more projects. So I need to somehow get, right, where is projects? It's a list of the projects. Let me find all the instances of this. So I'm going to do a F12 to find where that is. And then I'm going to do, I think it's Control F12 to find all the places where it's, no. Is it Shift F12 is the hotkey? There we go. Shift F12 brings up the references here, and I can see all the places where the projects object is being used. Well, here's my first problem. I'm not actually inserting anything into that projects list. Now, I think that's what I was trying to do at one point inside here. When the solution was opened. Right? Let's see. Total projects. Okay. Here we go. So after a project was loaded, track the projects in the solution. Here we go. Try and get the name of the project and add it to that list. Right? This way I know, and I've got a list, and along with the list, a count of all the projects in the solution. So let me bring this back in, because I want to see what's going on here. Okay, now we're getting into some of the weird things. Get canonical name, the item ID, and out the name of it. So how do I get the name? How do I get the name of the project that was just loaded? Right, so the real hierarchy, that's this thing, P real hierarchy. And, right, the item ID. What properties do we have on this? I'm going to cut that. Let's take a look. Real hierarchy. Get active project context. I don't want the active project. Right, so this is after load project. I want the current project. And look at these. Unused 0 through 4 properties. What is that? So I feel like I'm going to end up calling this get property. Right, look at this. And it's an item ID, a property ID, and then so I think, right, get canonical name returns a unique string name for an item in the hierarchy, used for workspace persistence, such as remembering window positions. So that might not be the project name. So this is when I start going to my browser. Right, I'm inside of a Visual Studio extension. Get project name. I want to get the name of how to find the project name of a file in Visual Studio. How do I get a list of projects in the current Visual Studio solution? That sounds good. Let's take a look at this question here. Stack Overflow. Get active object, culture invariant culture, Visual Studio DTE. So the DTE is the design time environment, right? This is the developer environment that you're working in. And then the project, solution of type project, to list, return projects. And this was in Visual Studio 2012. So this is the approved solution, says Visual Studio shell package get global service. What's over here? Type of IVS solution. Okay. And then it's saying for each project in the solution. So you actually have a project inside of it. That's not bad. That doesn't look too bad at all. But where do I fire this? Let's copy that code. Right? Let's just make sure there's nothing else here. Yeah, look at this. Here's how it's working through the hierarchies. Ugh. That makes me cringe. Your project will not work in case of projects are wrapped into solution folders. Okay. There may be a nicer way, but I had a quick go at this and found this to work. It assumes you have a way to know the solution name. According to this post, get active object does not guarantee the current instance of Visual Studio in which you're getting results from another instance. Instead, you can use get DTE method shown here. Okay, so this is, oh boy. Well, you need to know the process ID. If you know the solution name in advance, then you can find it in the main window title of process and pass the process ID. Oh my gosh. I encountered a comma error using the message filter class. Oh my gosh. I believe you can use something like this. So he gets the DTE, gets the solution. See, this feels right. Are usually present and available when adding a command tool window. Let's take a look at using this and see if we can find out the projects in the solution. Now that's after load project. So this would fire after the load of every project. Maybe I can make it only fire once. I'm just going to cancel that for right now. Let's paste in that code. And you know what? Get service is actually, that's actually working. So if solution, okay, so I've got a hook into the solution. Did I have a hook on solution before? I have solution up here. Let's rename this. I don't like having two of these here. I'm just going to call this SLN here, just to see if I can get this thing. All right, so if I say SLN dot, I don't want. Ooh, wow! Look at all these different things. Projects. Are you kidding? Okay, so what's... So if I say projects, can I say 0? Projects item index. All right, so if I say 0, can I get the name? Full name. You know what? I think I'd rather get file name. So I make sure that it's unique. And then there's also just name. Unique name. That's even better. All right, so do I have a SLN projects? Do I have a count or a length? I do have a count. Ooh. And it looks like there isn't an iterator on this. So I think I'm going to have to do a for with a... I'm going to have to do a for loop on this. That's fine. For int I equals 0, I less than SLN dot projects dot count. Sure. So now if I say projects add, and then it's just this string list. Oh, I don't want to do 0 with. I want to do the first one. And that should give me a list of projects in the solution. Now, I also want to make sure I don't fire this every time that there's a project loaded. So if projects dot length, nope, count. Yeah, there we go. Right. Return vs constants. I've got to do this OK indication. Ah! There it is. To indicate that this extension fired properly. So let's put a breakpoint right in. Let's put a breakpoint here just to see if we can get this thing triggering properly. So let's start and see. I'm not doing full test-driven development here, I know. Question in the chat room. Any specific reason I'm not using length? Something like projects add range. You know, I didn't see an iterator on the projects collection, so I don't think I'm going to be able to iterate over it. And if there's no iterator on that projects collection, right, I'm not going to be able to use link to iterate over it. Right, link will get cranky on me. I do prefer using link just for the simplicity of it, not having to write silly for loops like this, right? Hey, look, it opened in the right window this time, on the right screen. Cool. Let me open my test project, and we should see that code fire when this is opened. Loading projects, preparing solution. Yeah. What are you doing? Okay, so there's why this code isn't working, is I'm not even getting this to fire even though it's after the project was loaded, right? Or is it hitting here and stopping? Let me close the solution and reopen it. Okay, on query, close solution. Okay. File. Reload the solution. Yeah, it's not triggering down there. And let me just address your question there, Keishaiju. Um, let me come up here. You were asking if I could do this as a link statement. Let's just take a look at that real quick. If I did projects, add range, and then it was that enumerable collection. So that would be SLN, projects, and then I liked where you're going there with the select. See, this isn't an enumerable collection for me to be able to hang the select off of. It's not something that's linkable. Linkable? Is that a phrase? So I can't do that because it doesn't have the get enumerator on it, right? SLN projects. See, oh no, it does have get enumerator. Wait a sec. Hang on. You might be onto something here. Let's see if we can simplify. Projects, add range, SLN, projects, and then I should be able to do a select. If I control dot on that, is it going to give me the ability to add the link reference? Come on. Isn't using, yeah, link isn't up here. System dot link. And then just to be greedy, system link expressions. Yeah. It's not gonna let me reach into that. Not to string. As queryable. I still can't select it. So I don't think that's going to work for this. All right. So this isn't running when the project load happens, but there's also these query unload project, before unload project, after open solution. Is that being fired? Let's put a breakpoint there and see. Update solution begin, done, right? Because the other problem is when a new project is added to the solution, I need to make sure I add that into my collection of projects that I'm monitoring as well. So let me restart. I'm going to take a look at when these things happen because I don't write Visual Studio extensions all the time. This is the first time I'm writing one, so I'm learning about these extensions at the same time. Hopefully you are. So, and I don't know if there's folks out there on Twitter or somewhere that have a little bit better knowledge about how to build these things than me. I know my friend Mads, he doesn't build too many or any extensions that hook into the project like this. He usually builds things that work with the editors. And that's where he specializes. All right. So let me try opening my project. Let's see where this hits. So it's loading those, prepping the solution. I want to see it hit one of my breakpoints so I know where I'm hooking. On after open solution. So can I down here, let's go into the immediate window here in this Visual Studio. Let me see if I can get that. Invalid cast exception. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try and move this. I think even I should move it out into its own method, so that I can try and figure out where to call it, so that maybe I can just call it from wherever I need it. So let's do some quick refactoring here. I'm going to do a control dot. I did a control dot. Hello. Refactorings. I've angered Visual Studio again. I want to refactor. All right, it's not going to let me do that. Fine. Let's create another method down here. We will call this public void get projects in solution. I'll move that here. I'm just going to return, because I'm outside of. So here I was, after load project. This is where I was calling it. I don't think I need to do it there. Let's try doing it here. Get projects in solution. See if we can get that to fire from there now. Let's see. Fine, that brings me to my next point suggestion. I would be really curious to see another session about what type collection to use, when to use them. For example, the Visual Studio team did not use a collection here, which is not linkable. More like a performance, less allocation, tips and tricks session. That's an interesting question. I think what you're seeing here is actually... something historical that may have been built before Link existed, if that makes sense. That's kind of weird, but I think that's what I'm running into here. Is this is something from a long, long time ago that has been just in Visual Studio and hasn't been updated or optimized. Okay, so here's my Visual Studio, and I'm going to load my project. Preparing solution. Good, good, good. All right. Get projects in solution. Here we go. Let's see if this is actually doing its deal. Okay, get the service. Ah, okay. So there is something there. It has that. Do we have a count? All right, so it sees the two projects in the solution. And what's the unique name on that? Right? Show me a quick watch. Argument exception. What? Parameters incorrect. Are you kidding? Okay, so if it doesn't like 0, is it a 1-based? Don't tell me it's 1-based. That would make me feel bad. That'd make me feel real bad. I'm going to copy this, go over to my input window, immediate window, and I'm going to make this a 1, just to see what pops up here. Of course, it is 1-based. Oh, you stink. Doesn't that make you feel bad? So now I should get the appropriate number of projects in the solution when this opens. So then my current project count, we might be onto something here. This may have just solved this, but I like where you're going there. Where you're requesting that I go there, Keishaiju, to talk about type collections and how to use them. You know what? Honestly, I prefer using generics. The type of low-level optimization that folks who are building things like Visual Studio that needs to be very fast, very real-time, I don't typically run into, because when I'm building applications, I'm building for the web, and you know what? Web servers, I've got threads aplenty, and I don't need to really think about that much optimization. I think that choosing between having a strongly typed collection, whether it has an enumerator or not, I think those are micro optimizations that we as end developers who are building, new accounting systems or new website that does X, Y, or Z. That might be an over optimization that we don't really need to focus on. Um, when that type of optimization is something important to our projects, there's other bigger problems that we can address first. That's a good question though, and I'm tempted to bring some of my friends that question and kind of look at what's going on there. So if I look at my projects, I have two here: test project CS Proj, and then my test class library. Awesome. So I have my two projects captured inside my list. Okay. This is good. Let me go back to my experimental instance of Visual Studio. There it is. And now let's try and build. You can improve solution performance by disabling. You suck, Visual Studio. How dare you question my extension? No, kidding. Visual Studio now tries to make sure that you know when things are running slow, but because I have the debugger attached and actually paused and was stepping through some things, it made Visual Studio a little grouchy here and is telling me, hey, this is taking a long time. All right, let's see if this works a little bit better and it doesn't stop in between these. So current project is the 0 width project. Good. Starts playing. Okay. If the current project, so now we're on project, now look at that. We went from current project 0. Okay. So we incremented the project count. So we finished the first project. Good. And it didn't stop playing. Okay. So current project is, we've moved past the 0 width. We aren't building any projects yet. So we're going to let that go. So now we're on project 2. It finished building. And that is greater than or equal to the project count. And it stopped. All right. Cool. Okay. I think that addresses that first issue. But now I want to make sure that I handle, right, I think that handles that, but I think I also need to handle what happens when you add other projects into the solution, right? So what happens when I add test class library 2, right? I'll just create a new, I don't even need to create a new project. Let's also look at what happens if I remove this project. Gosh. So I'm unloading, look at this. On before unload project, some schmuck put a throw not implemented exception here. Oh, that would be me. All right, let me remove this. So clearly, now I know that the project is being unloaded. I think I should rebuild my project. Do I need to rebuild my project list, or do I know the name of the project that's being removed? It'd be great if I knew how to reach through these IVS hierarchy objects and could get the name of the project, right? Because then I can reach into my projects collection and remove it appropriately. Let me see if I can do a search there, right? It was IVS hierarchy, and I want to get the project name. Get the IVS hierarchy and get the item ID of NVDTE project. Get project information from IVS hierarchy. Oh, fantastic. Let's see. 1. Well, and how to get project type GUID of the selected project using VS package gave me a fairly good idea how to get the project type, and I can figure out the language from it. Code model seems to be the wrong approach to get it. All right, well, let's take a look at this. Get project type GUIDs. I don't want the project type GUID, but I'm working through IVS hierarchy. And gosh, folks are referencing back to this MZ Tools. I don't know who MZ Tools is. I'm kind of sad that it's not a Visual Studio or a Docs Microsoft web page, but let's see what's in here. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so those are the project type GUIDs, and I'm in case you haven't seen, in the updates that are being made to the .NET SDK, we're trying to eliminate the concept of project type GUIDs and push everybody towards one SDK so that that software development kit knows how to build all the projects. We'll see how they do. There's a lot of work to make that happen. But okay, this is where those project types are residing inside of my CSproj file. I don't really need to see that. I want to know how to reach through and find that project name. Get the full path name. Let's see what this one says. Okay, so this is going back to the forums. Does it in an add-in named Cool Commands. Opening Windows Explorer where the project or the item is. I suspect he contains the VSH prop ID name of item with some path from its current project. The code for the open project path is really simple. I did it using automation. Okay, so he goes after selected items and he goes after item 1, item.project. Okay, so let me look back over here. Let's start by removing this. Let's take a look at, I'm going to guess, real hierarchy. So I don't have project in my list of properties here. I do have, yeah, see, there's set property and there's a get property. I'd love to know what I can call on those. Because he's already on a selected item and is able to go after it. Look at this. Look at that. Oh! 2 DTE project. He's looking at IVS hierarchy. And I don't know what minus 2007 is. But he gets it back as a project. I'm going to try this little bit of code here. Let's see if we can use that to get the project. Because that would be really handy. Let me split my window here so I remember where I was. And I'm going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to just paste in that little helper method. I think it's returning a let's just say get project. And it's an IVS hierarchy? Yeah. And sure, I like that as a reference. And let me just paste in what he's doing here. So it's an env DTE project. Okay. So now I can delete those couple lines. I can delete that line. Okay. Now, yeah, what? That should be 0. There it is. Okay. Now, that's weird that the item ID is, not thrilled with that. A variable definition can be inlined. Oh, let's do that. That's a C#7 feature, right? You can receive out and define the type of the project of the object right there, and I don't have to have that extra line. So now let me come back up here and where it was that I was working. Can we say var project equals p real hierarchy, get project p real hierarchy. And then let's just try trace removing project dots, and then I should have, haha, let's put unique name on that, because that's the same property that we're using. And then I need to return an int here, right? And that's going to be vs constants. Okay. There we go. So let's see if this works. Right? And I feel like I'm spelunking around inside the internals of Visual Studio. And I know I work with some folks that are a lot better at this than I am. And there's folks at some of the vendors like Progress and Dev Express who are really good at this stuff. JetBrains, right? And this is how I'm learning how to interact and work with the Visual Studio interface. Right? I like to learn by breaking stuff. Right? The more stuff that I can break, the more stuff that I can get lost in and noodle my way around, the better. So let's see. Because right now I have my MP3 file kind of hard coded out there. It's not going to work long term. All right, so recent files, and so I still need to figure out how to put that interface, that user interface, into Visual Studio, and we'll save that for another time. Because at some point, gosh, I'd like to be able to publish this extension so that folks can use it and have a good time like I am listening to the music when it plays. Or choose your own music, right? Maybe there's a whatever song that you would like to have play. I don't know. Country western song. You know, that'd be really cool. Be able to play your favorite song as your project is building. Okay, so Visual Studio loaded properly for me. So now let me try removing that project. All right, so I'm right-clicking. I'm going to remove the project. Yes, remove it from my solution. Okay, it didn't actually hit my code. I thought this not on after open. Before unload project, I thought it was hitting that. Why didn't it hit it? Right? It should have hit that. Let me re-add the project. Add existing project. Test class library. Right? Now if I remove that project. Yep. So it Okay, project's clear. Current project equals 0. Nope, don't save those changes. Okay, so I'm not handling that method properly. Let me move get project down here. Okay, so after load project, it's not before unload. I'm shocked that this isn't firing. It's not close project after. It's not after open project. Certainly not on dispose. Okay, so there's my initialize. So just thinking through these various events, hoping that they're named properly over the actual event that they're wired up to. And I'm looking at you, team. Update project config. Okay, so right, that's when the build starts. Project config done. Okay. And I feel like I could even move some of these out. Oh, here we go. Gosh, I can't read your name there. What is it? In the chat room. I'm trying to read the last chat that came in there. That is Fossils. Fossils says, this will be perfect to have the Jeopardy theme song queued up while our project's built. Yes! Yes! That's another great one. Merv Griffin wrote that song way back in the day. And once again, we got to be careful with copyright there, team. You know, if you're playing that music and it's at a conference, or if you're redistributing it, they might take a little offense that they're not getting paid for their music being distributed. But absolutely, oh my gosh, I would love to be at a user group, something that isn't being recorded, and be able to say, look, have the Jeopardy music play while I'm waiting for something to build. Oh my gosh, I love that. Um, so it's not inside this either, right? When it's right, this is the build, start, and build complete methods, event handlers on this interface. So where is it when it's actually removing the project? Which one is it actually triggering here? What I'm going to do, just to get really paranoid and try and figure this out, is I'm actually going to go through and put debug points on here so I can kind of mark exactly which ones of these events are being triggered. And let's also figure out which events are being triggered when the onload project or add new project is happening, because I want to make sure I manage my collection of projects for that also. See, I would think this one would be fired too when I remove a project, right? And it's important that I maintain that collection of project names so that I have the appropriate number of projects that I'm managing the build process for. And this feels very manual to me, right? I feel like I shouldn't have to check and see, do I have more projects to build? Am I on building the last project? I feel like I should know these things, that Visual Studio should hand my interface this information, my class this information, and I should be able to inspect it and say, hey, what's going on here? Now, okay, I can derive and build this, and I get it that Visual Studio is trying to minimize the amount of code and things that it's managing. All right, I get it. But as an API designer, it makes me grumpy. All right, where are we here? We've got our experimental instance of Visual Studio. I'm going to go into recent projects and solutions. I'm going to try and load my project. That was the CS project. I should try to load the solution file, right? There's my circle of patience while it's loading this. Here we go. So after open project, okay, on active project configuration change. So these are firing as I'm loading the project. So now they're on after open solution, get the projects in the solution. How many projects did it find? It only found one. Why did it only find one? Because I only loaded the class library. So let's make sure I load the entire solution. Let me change here. So close the solution, clear the projects. That's right. There was close project. Nope, don't save changes before close solution. Query close project. This if I had a notepad with me, if I was going through and really needed to track this stuff, I'd be drawing a map right now of the order that these things are firing, so that I can follow it. There we go. My after open project config change, because it's setting the current active project, right? Now I'm getting the solution is finished opening. I'm getting the list of projects in the solution, and I have 2. Good. So I'm letting that finish. There's my 2 projects. Okay. So now what happens? I'm right-clicking on the project, and I'm going to unload the project. Aha! On query unload project. Does it trigger anything else? On query close project. And now before unload project. Ha ha! Wait a sec. It did run this method. All right, let's step into this. So get project, so hierarchy, get property, and then we should get back a project object. Okay, the hierarchy is not a project. Well, what is the hierarchy? Enable native code debugging. Come on now. So, okay. My get project is not finding it properly. Let me go back. Where was I calling get project? There it is. Let me let's try passing the other one. Let's try passing this one, the stub hierarchy. I don't know what these two things are. I could try and hit the documentation on this. Let's hit F1 on this. See if I get some information as to what these two things are. Why are you asking me to log in? Don't save that. Yeah, of course. I have a user ID on MSDN because I manage a blog on MSDN, and of course it routes me now to just the top of the documentation. And even though I was searching for a specific thing here, it didn't route me appropriately. So I think I may drop a message to my friends on the docs team that, hey, when you route me over from a query on MSDN because I hit F1 inside my Visual Studio, it'd be nice if you routed me to the same place that I was searching. So I'm on VS IDE, and I want to look up on before unload project. Considerations for unloading and reloading nested projects. All right, what's this? So, reloading projects. I'm not... Thanks. All right. When you implement nested project types, you must perform additional steps when you unload and reload the projects. To correctly notify listeners to solution events, you must correctly raise these two events. Yeah. But what's in them? Right? I want to know what's inside that thing. And my Visual Studio documentation isn't telling me what's inside that. I'm not going to search just yet. All right, so I'm still trying to get the project. Let's see what happens when I do that against the stub hierarchy. I don't know. Curious. But I think we're a little bit further along here than we were before. But I want to go back to this, and don't stop between projects. The Visual Studio is still loading down here. There it is. I want to finish writing up my thoughts here. Handle project add so that we know the new collection of projects. Handle project remove so that we know. I don't need to put that. And why didn't I turn those into checkboxes? GitHub issue checkboxes. What's the notation for the GitHub checkboxes? Using GitHub issued checkboxes. There we go. Tom McFarlane. What do you got, Tom? Tell me how to do this. What am I doing wrong? Yep, there they are, checkboxes. How do we do that? What's the notation? Tom, what's the notation? If you're in the habit of breaking down issues into smaller units of work, yes. How do I do that? Doesn't tell me. Oh, Tom. Double checkboxes. No. GitHub help. I forget how to put the checkboxes. There's a way to do this, and I thought it was just the square brackets. No. Yeah, task list. There you go. Preface items with double square brackets. Yeah. All right, check digits. GitHub.com, blog, 1825, task list. GitHub, blog, task lists in all markdown documents. Haha! All right, thank you, check digits. It looks like I need to put a dash in front of them. And is it not letting me do that in a comment? Ah, there we go. Good. All right, so I have don't stop between projects. I have that working. All right. Yeah, nice. Thank you. Appreciate the help from the chat room. That was awesome. Let's see now. Let's try and do the project. Let's see if it. Right now to rewind Jeff's thought process. Let's see if I can find the project now when I'm unloading it. All right. You know what? I'm going to disable some of these just because I don't want to hit every one of those right now. So I have the collection of projects, right? Come on back, Visual Studio. There it is. And so now let me right click and unload. Okay, so here it is, unload project. Oh, look at this, right? I've got, well, I guess that's a cancel indicator. Int F removing. So is this the item that I'm removing? Okay. So let's see if it actually finds it this time. No. No. This method isn't working with either of my objects that I'm trying to pass in. So I don't think this is working for me to try and identify the current project. Nice try. On selection changed. So I'm wondering if, follow me here for a second. I'm wondering if inside of Visual Studio, right? I think I'm going to end up yanking this code. So I was, not that one, this one. Right, we saw it was also calling onQuery unload project. And where was it? There was one here where before close project, where it was specifying which one, and query close project, right? It was specifying which one was being removed. I'm wondering if I can use this to pick up which one it is being removed. Remembering again that it's a one-based index of the project names. So here's what I'm thinking. If I remove the second project, is it going to pass in a value of 2 versus the first project, it passes a value of 1. So let's do this. For right now, let me yank that code. Was trying to track projects here. And let me go back up here. Where's this one? Track projects. And my projects right now, it's a list, a string. Let's do a trace right line of F removing. No. Removing project number. Is it F removing? Can I do that? And then I want to be able to see. I want to take a look at the hierarchy when we get here, and take a look at, right, this hierarchy. What is enum importing projects? And of course, my friends on the Visual Studio team, there's no documentation. There's no description behind these objects. Feels bad, man. What is get canonical name? Right, I'm going to look at what some of these properties are. I want to see what these things are actually doing here when this is triggered. So I want to make sure. Where's my trace? Let me add a watch window here. Debug windows. Where's my watch windows? Watch windows. Watch windows. Right, not IntelliTrace. Right, I thought, where is it? View. I love how there's so many windows to view that they've added a other windows with an even bigger list of windows to view. It's fun. I don't see it. Where's my watch windows? Watch. You're kidding, right? The search isn't finding watch? Fine. Have it your way. I'll just start anyway. Keeping an eye on what's going on out there in Twitter land while we wait for Visual Studio to open. Right, and this is where I think there's got to be a way to TDD these things, because right now I'm just fighting with the interface of Visual Studio, you know? There's got to be a better way to do this. Because I feel very unproductive, right? But I mean, I'm extending somebody else's application. So, you know, if I knew what the various objects were that Visual Studio was triggering inside this extension, maybe I could move this out into a class and trigger those directly. But I don't know enough about the internals, the guts of Visual Studio to be able to speak towards exactly how those things function. All right, so my project's loaded. Let's click on my project, and let me right-click and do a remove. Yeah, I know it's going to be removed. That's why I said to remove it. All right, so it's saying F removing is 1. All right, so here we go. There's watch 1. See, I knew there was a watch window, you punk. All right, this thing doesn't exist. Let me delete that watch. But I'm going to come up here to P hierarchy, and I'm going to pin this. So I've got a little thing hanging over here. Come here. You come over here. Let's expand and see. So this is a native object, and it's not going to let me take a look at that. And there's non-public. Yeah, it's not going to let me watch and explore into it. So I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. Go back into the immediate window. Clear. Let's pin the immediate window. Let's explore what that P hierarchy thing is doing. So these are methods with the little cube next to them. So what's get canonical name? Now see, it wants an item ID. What happens if I say F removing? And yeah, out string project name? Can I do that? Can I convert from... You stink. Fine. It's a 1. What are you going to do with that? That's an ugly error code, isn't it? Right? Because if I say project name now, right, that thing doesn't exist. Yeah, nothing there. Angelo, need to go. See you next time. All right, thanks a lot for joining me, Angelo. I appreciate you checking in here on this Saturday morning. As always, I'll commit and push this stuff back out to GitHub so we can take a look at it a little bit later in another coding session. So why can't... What else is in here, right? It's not finding... I mean, canonical name is coming out as something else. Parse canonical name. That's... that doesn't look right. Set property, and then there was also a get property. What's get property? Now here it is, item ID, property ID, and then pvar, right? So for list of item ID values, vs const vs item ID. So what if I say 1? So for list of prop ID values, see vsh prop ID. So what's vsh prop ID? Okay. Ooh. Okay, so here's all... Is this all the properties that I can inspect? Like name? out object, let's call it pvar. Why not? Cannot convert from VSH prop ID to int. Fine. Be that way. I get that again. So what's pvar? No. Watch window is Control-Alt-Q. You had to Google it. Google it with Bing, man. No, I have no allegiance there. Control-Alt-Q brings the watch window. There it is, and it brings up the quick watch. Cool. All right. I used to think I need to learn a new Visual Studio hotkey once a week, and that's something that I would lob into the mix. Is that Control-Alt-Q for the quick watch? I would definitely look at that as something to remember for next time. Let me keep exploring around the P hierarchy here. What else is in this thing? I mean, it feels like I should be notified of exactly what is going on in here, but I don't know. This is all it's all Greek to me. I don't understand it. So let's do this. Let's see if I can cheat a little bit here. So that removed what we think is project 1. Let me add that back. Add existing project. What? No. C dev my epic build music, and let me grab the test class library. Let's add that back in. So there's after open project, right? Here's f added 1. Right, it'd be nice. Or what happens if I go and Spelunk and recalculate, just go over the entire list of projects each time that one of those events happens, right? Because if I remove this one, right, the f removing is 1 again. So is it just giving me a flag that yes, it's removing this? Save changes, nope. Before close project, and then it's gone. So let's try that. Continue. Nope, don't save those changes. So what happens if I just rebuild my list of projects? Right? If I call my get projects in solution, I'm literally brute forcing this because I wish it was a little bit more elegant. Yeah. If projects count greater than 0, so let me do this. B clear list. No, I'm sorry. Bool clear list equals false. So clear the list each time, or when we specifically say to. So if clear list projects.clear, and then we'll rebuild the list. So now, so this is where I was trying to. So on query unload, before unload, so is it still there? Right? So here's where I was on query close project. I think, was this the last one? Let's try and do it here. So it was, what was the name of that method down there? Get projects in solution. Get projects in solution, and then yes, rebuild the list. Excuse me. And let's see what happens when, when that is fired. Because then that just makes everything simpler. I'll just keep routing through, go calculate and reload the list of projects in the solution. Then I'll have an accurate count so that I can go and be sure that I'm not running my build music for eternity. Let's see here. Fossil says, F removing int32, true if the project is being removed from the solution before the solution is closed. False if the project is being removed from the solution while the solution is being closed. Ah, interesting. Okay, so it's a 1 if it's being removed before the solution is closed. So the circumstance that we're in now, where we're removing the project. Okay, I see where you're going with that, where that works. So that makes sense for us to test in our scenario where we want to test and rebuild the selection for the project was removed from the solution. We want to only do our rebuild projects when it's a 1, but we don't want to do it when it's a 0. I got it. All right. That makes sense to me. So let's see if when my get projects fires during that project remove, if it truly has the extra class removed. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say remove this project. Yes, it's going to be removed. And now it's on query close project. So now let me reach into this. So yes, clear the projects, get access to the solution. Now, what's our count? It still sees 2. So I'm not at the right point yet. Before close project is next, and then it's gone. Okay, so let's take what we learned here, what Fossils found for us, and let's add that into the mix. Don't save those changes. Yeah, there it is. See, you're right. There it is. Trying to rebuild my list as it's being removed. So let me come back up here. This was where'd it go? Here. So I only want to track projects if removing and not closing solution. And even then, this is the wrong place to do it. So I'm just going to yank that from here. And it was on before close, and it was that F removed. And just given the fact that F removed is past tense, suggests to me that it's already been removed and it's not there anymore. So let me do if F removed equals 1, then get the projects from solution. F removed equals 1. Just because putting comments in here like that is going to help me remember this in the future, because finding my way around here, damn, it's confusing, right? So I feel like I'm half documenting what I'm learning about Visual Studio as I'm spelunking through and learning some of these things, figuring some of these things out. All right, so Visual Studio is opening. Here it comes. Come on now. Come on. And changes are not allowed. I'm not trying to change it. It's still opening. I still have a Visual Studio logo down below in my other screen. Come on. Visual Studio. Let's see. There we go. All right. Where's my pointer? There it is. All right, so now let's open the project again. Let's see if I've properly hit that point. Loading. Good. Okay. Get the projects in the solution. Good. I'm going to stop tracking those two for right now. So there's my solution. I'm going to right click on the project and let's remove it. Yep. Okay. So there we go. Just as Fossils was suggesting there, F removed is 1, so it is removing and we're not closing the solution. So now let's step into getting projects from the solution. We're going to clear the project list, get access to the solution, and my count is still 2. It didn't actually remove the project yet. It's still there. So that doesn't feel right, because it's notifying me on before closed project. It's like I wish there was an on after closed project, you know? Maybe there's another interface I need to implement. Let me close this. Nope. So there's the closed solution. So here it is. And you're right, fossils, there it is. F removed is 0 because I'm closing the solution. So I'm not rebuilding that. Good. After close solution. See, if there's an after close project, right? Is there an on after or on after unload project? Should I be tracking it here? Let's go back and let's take a look. Visual Studio on after close project. How do I exit my current one? How do I close project? Solutions in project? No. Right, so on query unload project, on after unload project? Let's try just get rid of Visual Studio and say on after load project method. There's it's on VS solution events 2. The plot thickens. On after on let me go back. What am I thinking here? So I'm wondering. Let me write down that order of events, how these things are triggering as we unload the project. So I'm actually going to, while this is starting up, I'm going to start up Notepad, preferred text editor of real Windows developers everywhere, Notepad. Get it now by just typing Notepad. Let's just start writing down the names of these things in the right order. Because I want to catch the last one. And hopefully my project's unloaded at that point. And I shouldn't have to register another event to listen to that thing unloading, right? So let me go recent projects. Let's reload the solution one more time. So this is all the solution. And you would think it's updating the solution. You'd think it would hit this one also. On after load project. Okay. I'm going to put a breakpoint there. Right, because query close project, right, removing, that feels like it's before it's done. Okay, so now I think I've got all my breakpoints wired up here. Let's remove, yep. All right, there we go. So it fired on query close project. And if I say, let me open my immediate window down here. And if I say get projects in solution true, yeah, I know. But if I go projects here, okay, they're both still there. So here's on before close project, right? And if I reference projects again, they're both still there. But let me copy this into my notebook so I know the order that these things are occurring. And that's it. It didn't trigger anything else. It didn't trigger anything about the solution configuration changed. Right? It didn't, this update solution didn't trigger. Maybe I should get the collection of projects when a build starts. Then I'm going to run into some other interesting things when there's other builds that fire. Right. Okay. So if I do a build at this point, right? So update solution begin, update solution start update, and now it's checking and it's going to start playing music. There's some music. If it's greater than project's count, which is 2, but it's done. Look at that update solution done. Update solution done. Now see, my music's going to play forever. It's wonderful like that. Right? And if I start again, look at that, update solution done. Can I just use update solution done? And say, you know what, stop the music at update solution done? Can I do that? That'd be really cool if I could just do that. And then I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let's cancel that for right now. What was it? Update solution done. Can I just always say stop playing there? And then I could also move the begin playing to, I think it was start update. Can I do that also? Start update. Can I just move it there? Oh, wouldn't that be great? Let's see. Nothing much going on. Twitter is very quiet for me right now. Let's see. All right, so here comes my Visual Studio updating. But we only had these 2 events on the close. So managing that list of projects feels, and removing things on close, if I do need to go that way, it feels like the bad place, the bad way to do it. And I feel like I should rebuild the list of projects when I actually, if I do need to manage my list of projects, when I start the build. But if I don't have to manage my list of projects, that's even better. All right, so here we go. So file, recent projects and solutions. There's my solution file. And maybe preparing the solution. Come on. Okay. Why do I only have the 1 project here? Did I save it without it? Let me add existing project. Yep, class library, there it is. Okay, on after open project. Okay, I'm all right with that. So now if I start the build. So update solution begin. So I thought it was going to be update solution start update. Ah. Update solution done. Well, that's actually okay. Right? Because it's done building my project and here it is running. Okay. Not terrible. Let me do a rebuild solution. Come on. Give me that cursor. Okay, so update solution. I feel like I should move to update solution begin instead of start update. Okay. So there's where I would have started playing the music. So update project config done. That's where I would have stopped it. But I finished it, update solution done. I like that better. Okay. Go away. Thank you. So now, so now let's try putting an error in here. Let me put the error back in, just to make sure that it is properly catching that. Start the build. I think this is where I'm going to need to go, is update solution begin. I'm going to leave that breakpoint there. Remove this one. Okay, update solution done. Hang on. So it actually built and ran my project. But I thought I just put an error in there. Oh, you know what? Did it drop my reference? Add reference. I think it dropped my reference, so it didn't actually build it. That's compelling. That's interesting. All right, so here we go. Starting my build music. There it is. Wonderful. Okay, so it's going through the projects. There are build errors, and it stopped the music too. Would I like to run the last successful build? I'm going to say no. And the music stopped. It isn't playing the music anymore. Good. Now let me run it again. Okay, there's my build music. Go, go. It stopped. If I say run last successful build, it still runs the project. And it's okay. It's not trying to play the music again or anything. I'm okay with that. All right. I think I'm in a much better place with this just by moving to that alternate event handler, right? I think I've learned something about the event handlers here inside of Visual Studio a little bit, and gosh, it would be great to not have to manage those other projects and the project list. And the other thing that we noticed, because we built a project that didn't depend on other projects, by hooking to the solution events, I'm also not having to juggle the complete list of projects that are being built for that chain, right? Because I was getting the complete list of projects, and I was assuming incorrectly that you're always going to build and build every single project. When I was building just then and I wasn't referencing the class library, it wasn't building the class library because it wasn't being referenced. It wasn't part of what needed to be built to run the solution. So I would have incorrectly triggered and listened to the build for that project even though it wasn't being built. This is a much better way to do it. So update solution begin is where I want to move the begin playing. So I'm going to use the Alt up button to move this up a couple lines. Park it there. I'm going to remove, you know what, update solution cancel. Ooh, we might run into that. To do, investigate how we handle a canceled build. That could be a problem. All right, we'll come back to that later. So now it feels like I don't need this code. I certainly don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need this code, and I don't need that. I might not need this get projects and solution. Let me click my two references here. So here it was on before closed project. I don't think we need it there. On after load project. No. Okay. And I don't think I need it there. Because I think I'll know whether, I think I'll get some information about whether or not my my project compiled properly, right? I hope I will be able to detect that information. I think that's something that I'm gonna have to figure out how to track, whether, right, when I get down to not that one, not that one. There, I've got 0 references now in this get projects in solution. I'm gonna leave that for right now, just in case I need it. And before I publish, I'll remove this. But I am going to put an obsolete flag on this. Trying to avoid tracking projects in solution. So just to make sure, I want to throw appropriate messages if I start to use it. Now I've got a little bit of information as to why I shouldn't use it. Okay, in my initialize method here, I didn't really touch on this earlier. This is actually getting the solution. No, I did it, and I'm saying advise of the different solution events. Right, and when the solution is updated, we want to be known. We want to be notified when that occurs as well. I think that's all I need. And I'm in a much better place for this. I think, right? And if I am, then, and look, I'm still trying to get the count here. I can get rid of that stuff. Because I'm not actually using this anywhere. And I think that's going to be where I'll wrap up today. Oh, and the dog's upset. I bet you somebody's outside raking leaves or something. It's so great, pet ownership. Especially when you've got a large, upset dog. Here we go. Yes, there she goes. Very upset. Don't anger the dog. That's the moral of the story here. You anger the dog and she's just going to start barking at everything. All right. One more time just to verify this is working. Now that I've yanked all that other code. And then I can update my... I can update this issue. I think I can actually close this issue if these new methods are properly handling the project remove and add and build process appropriately. So, all right, there's my project. And if I do a, not project, I want to do a build. If I do rebuild solution, there's my build music. And it stopped when my build completed. Will it fire if I do a clean solution? It does. I wonder if I don't want it to run for a clean solution. You know what, for now, I think that's okay. When I just start and run the debugger. Now it's stopped, even though it says build started. Ah, you know what? I don't think the window there was keeping up because it was actually launching my command window down here. So that looks right. Okay, last little bit of testing. Let me break the reference here between these two. Where is it? Add reference. It feels weird. I'm going to add reference, and I'm actually going to uncheck. Okay. And now if I do a Control-Shift-B, that builds the solution. So it should build both projects. No, it just built the one. Built the one because that was the one that changed. Okay. I'm going to say clean solution. Cool. And now if I say start, it's going to debug start this one. Let me do that directly. Debug, start new instance. I'm going to turn this off so we get a little bit more realistic. And it started and ran my application. It's down here on the other screen. You don't need to see it. Not bad. Okay. I think I'm in a much better place where this is running more realistically. And if I have this error in here and I run, did you hear that? Since it didn't need to rebuild that, it literally just played 1 second of it and went right into running the application. I feel like we might want a delay at some point in there. Let me say rebuild solution. Okay, that was weird that it kind of stuttered like that. I don't know if you guys could hear that on the stream, but it kind of stuttered. Now that wasn't too bad. I'll dig a little bit further into that quality issue here. I feel like maybe do I have anything inside my music player that says if I'm already playing? Yeah. I feel like I need to have a thing here that says if you're already playing, don't try and play again. Let me add that real quick. If underscore playing return. And let's move that up. Okay. And after I call play, right? Send string playing equals true. And let's create playing as a field. Cool. Now, because it's a, where to write it? Where exactly is that? There it is. No, I don't want it there. I want it up a little bit more. That's better. Because it's a Boolean, of course, it gets initialized as false, so that's okay. So if already playing, so if playing, return. So if false, it'll fall through. Okay, good. Stop playing. Yes. Stop playing, we should, after we call close media file is open false, we should say playing equals false. Same thing with pause. We should probably, after we send the pause, say playing equals false. I don't think we actually call pause anywhere. It has 0 references right now. Just to be safe. And you know what? I feel like the playing should be managed by the play method, right? The check, it shouldn't be on open or begin playing. Nah. Well, yeah. Let's move that down into the play method. If is open and not playing. So if the file is open and we are not playing, start playing. Otherwise, we're already playing. We don't need to do that. So I'm just managing the state of playing there. Okay. Let me start that and let's just verify, and then I'll commit, push it in, and then I think we'll end the stream today. Let's see how this works. Visual Studio. I'm going to throw a tweet out here real quick. So, let's say, with some help from my friends on stream today, I think I have made some good progress on my Epic Build Music extension for Visual Studio. Twitch.tv C#Fritz. Alright, so now I have Visual Studio loaded, the experimental instance. Let's give this a try one more time. Because I think I've got all my Boolean checks properly, right? Managing that state appropriately. Loading, come on. There we go. All right. Rebuild solution. I should see this. There it is playing. And it failed. Good. All right. Remove that. I'm sorry, build, rebuild. Cool. I think that's much better. Right? Let's see, do I still have the reference? No, I dropped it. Let me add the reference back to the test class library. And start. That was quick. But it's already running down here in my other window. So I'm okay with that. Now, I think I still need to do some learning, need to figure out how to handle what happens when the build ends for the solution and how to respond properly to the build success or failure. I think we still need to do a little bit of work to figure out how that functions. But for right now, just starting and stopping the music when the build begins and when the build ends. Easy for me to say. I think I have that working properly. So I'm going to close out of my experimental Visual Studio here and let that close properly. I can get rid of these debug points. Cool. And come on, get rid of that orange. There we go. Save that, and then I'm going to go back over to my command window and let's clean up now that we're done for the end of the day. Let me add my two test projects. Test class library, test project, and let's commit everything. Completed, I think I can say I completed number 7. Build music starts and stops properly. I will push. I don't have my upstream set. So the upstream is a feature inside of Git that allows you to specify, here's where I'm pushing to by default. And I'm going to do that here, push that to my dev branch on GitHub automatically. And there it is, it's set up for me. Fantastic. And if I look at this, I think I am properly handling these things. And if I should see my entry up here. There it is. Build music starts and stops properly. I'm going to close this issue. And I think I'm all cleaned up now for the end of the day. We got one more comment in here. Check Digits says, build music should be DTMF tones and a modem carrier sound. Love that idea, too. Love it. That I think we might be able to get away with shipping because it's not copyrighted, the modem carrier sound. That's not a bad idea. Let's come back to that. I'm gonna create an issue, and let's call this default shipping music modem carrier sound. I like that idea. Let's put a label on this of feature, and I'm even going to mark this as help wanted because I need your feedback on what to do there. what we should have as the default music. And you know what? I should put probably a little description. Challenge. How do we distribute default music without incurring copyright issues? Can we deploy something like any of the following? And I like the modem carrier sound. Let's put that in the checkbox. There we go. And I'd like to get your comments on what would be cool default shipping music, because I know I can't ship that Epic Sax guy. That I love that music. I might even get into trouble for having it here on the Twitch stream. freesound.org. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's link that. Open source sound. I like that. HTTPS freesound.org. Cool. I'll update that comment so I know about it for next time. All right. I think that's all I'm going to do here today. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to wrap this up. I'll save off the video. We'll push it over to YouTube so that folks can catch up on anything you might have missed, seeing me stumble through Visual Studio here a little bit. I hope you learned something about how to connect up and work with the Visual Studio solution interfaces, how we can trigger different events when solutions are being built, and you can work with them. I'll put a brief write-up on my blog. It's up there at the top, jeffreyfritz.com. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back on Tuesday morning. We'll see what I'm working on then. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more about this, if I'll go back to the configuration builders. I'm going to try and run a test for an interview on Monday night so that I can try and get Skype or Discord or something appearing with somebody else in the window here above me. But we'll take a look and see what we can do to make that work out. So, thanks a lot. I'll see you later.